Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome to my channel, Learning with Boys. Today, I want to talk to you about something that is very dear to my heart, and that is read alouds. Now to begin, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I was not an avid reader growing up, but I do know that I have learned to love reading. And especially with my children, it is a time of bonding. Now, I feel like I am an avid reader. I love to read. I'm usually reading 1, 2, 3 books a day to different kids for different reasons. And I used to have more time to read books for myself. And there are periods of time, even maybe throughout a year, that I'll have more freedom to do that. I would say in the summer. I know a lot of moms, you understand. But, right now with high schoolers and a young one, it's just very busy. But I do want to share a couple thoughts with you before I get into showing you books. I'm going to be honest, I've tried to make this video a couple times, and I just felt like all I was doing was showing you a list of books. But I don't want it to feel like just books. I want it to be meaningful. There's a reason to do read alouds. Now, you may be in a situation where you love read alouds and you have some of your own family favorites, and if you do, please share them below. We would love to hear what you enjoy. But you may be someone that is on here and thinking, what is this read aloud thing? I'd like to know a little bit more about that. Or you may be someone that is thinking, I would love to do read alouds, but with my circumstances, I just can't fit that in right now for whatever reason. It might be a health reason, it might be caring for somebody else, it might be a special need with your child. So I want to share that, give you some ideas that might help in any circumstance. And for me, I did start out reading a lot to my boys, but then we discovered audiobooks. And the books that I'm going to share with you, most of them, I don't want to say most of them, I'll tell you which ones, do have, at least at my library, have an audiobook that you can put on hold. Now you have to remember, a lot of these books that I'm showing you have been several years since we've read them, because these are when my boys were younger. And I originally found them in audiobook form. I was familiar with most of them, maybe had already seen the movie, but like I said, I was not an avid reader when I was younger. So really, for some of these books, it was the first time that I was reading them. And maybe that made it more joyful for me. And I think we enjoyed it so much together that it was a special bonding time. Let me start showing you some book ideas. Coffee first. Okay. I'm going to start out with pretty young books. I wouldn't say young, but ones that I sort of first started getting as audiobooks. Remember, that was where I sort of started. I did read a lot to my boys. All different kinds of books that I could find. I'm going to start out with Charlotte's Web and also The Trumpet of the Swan. These were both really good books. Of course, I had seen this movie as a young child, but I don't know if I've ever actually heard or read the book. Sorry, yeah. And Trumpet of the Swan, that not either. But we did get the movie, and I turned it off right away. The book is so good, though. They're both worth either reading if you can, or audiobook. And here's another audiobook I found, and that is the Cricut in Times Square. This is actually the audio from the library, and this is a really good book. Now, I don't know if I mentioned, but a lot of the books that I would find, especially as they got a little bit older in elementary, were from like catalogs, like Homeschool, literature-based catalogs, like Sunlight, Veritas Press, things like that. Now, I've never used any of their curriculum, but they have a really good book list if you're looking for some good read alouds. Now, these two books I actually got, they're from Journey Forth, which is put out by Bob Jones, and we really enjoyed these. Fanny Crosby and Adoniram Judson. They're not hard reads. Actually, your child, 3rd grade, could read them themselves, but we really enjoy reading some of these kind of stories together, especially if I haven't read them. Another book is William Bradford, Pilgrim Boy. Now, I found this book off of Beautiful Feet curriculum, and I really enjoyed this book. And I remember reading it to him and just learning more about him from his childhood. So this was really good. And it talks about him going to America and everything. And of course, most people are familiar with the Little House series, Little House on the Prairie and the Big Woods. Now, these I purchased probably after, I don't know, my second, third son was born. And as a set, just because I liked Laura Ingalls Wilder, we actually ended up listening to them on audio from the library, and we really enjoyed them. We listened to most of them. Once she started dating and getting married, they stopped. Like, they weren't interested. They were younger elementary boys. They didn't care about that stuff. But Laura did put out Farmer Boy, which is about her husband when he was like 9 or 10. And this is such a good quality character building book. Teaches about hard work and being honest and not wasting. This is such a good book, and usually around 3rd grade is when we will listen to it. I think I have read it once, and a couple of my boys have read it themselves out of the book. So this is a really good book. Now, a couple more audiobooks. Where the Red Fern Grows is really good. We've enjoyed this one. Rascal. Now, I had seen this movie a couple times before we had heard the book, but the book is really good. Misty of Chincoteague. I have been here several times when I was younger, so this is a special book to me. And of course, we have seen the movie, and that's really good too, but we enjoyed the book. Black Beauty. This was a really good book, and we listened to this one. As they were getting a little bit older, I found some other books that interest me, and I was hoping they would interest them, and that was books about different missionaries and different historical characters. Like this there's a whole series, and it's the Trailblazers books, and like this is about Adoniram and Ann Judson. This one is about Martin Luther and John Bunyan. And what these are, there is a whole series of them. And at the time when my boys were younger, I only had like a handful of them. But they're about a fictional character or characters, like this was a brother and sister with Martin Luther, looking out at the story we're talking about Martin Luther. But it's sort of a little bit about their adventures too in the circumstances that are going on. So these were really fun for the kids when they were younger, and even now. I mean, and really my 4th grader could read them himself. Another selection of books, like a series, well, I wouldn't say these are a series, this is more from a company called YWAM, and it's the Heroes Then and Now, or Christian Heroes Then and Now. And they have a huge selection of books of Christian heroes and heroes from history. And the nice thing about these is you can get them on audio too. And we have several audiobooks of these also. But something I wanted to mention, for example, reading William Wilberforce was actually, I read this to my 10th grader because he had an American history curriculum, but I thought this would go along good with it, and I used it as a family read aloud. Now at the time I had a 10th grader, a 8th grader, a 5th grader, and then a little guy who would have been 5 years younger than that. And everybody listened, and we all enjoyed it. He was probably coloring. He liked to draw a lot, and each child is different. It could be Play-Doh, it could be drawing or coloring. So, okay, another family favorite, like this is one of my favorite books, and I would say my boys all remember it, and I read it last year to my 3rd grader, and that is The Little Pilgrim's Progress by Helen L. Taylor. And I usually read it when each one was in 3rd. I've read it several times, and I'm not sure if they would have this one on audio. they may, or it might be something that's free you could find online. But we've all really enjoyed this one. Another family favorite, and that's Swiss Family Robinson. This is the Treasury and Illustrated Classics version. It's just something I found and ended up using as a read aloud. It is not, this one is not hard reading. Like, you could read this for second grade. It's actually, and they could read it themselves as they get a little older. So, a couple more is A Lion to Guard Us, The Sign of the Beaver. We read this last year again. We've read it several times. I say that, but you can get this on audio at the library. I told you I would tell you if you can get it on audio or not. And, but I did read this last year, and it's a really good book. Now, I will tell you, just in case you have seen it, I think there's a movie out. It's not anything like the book. The book is so good. The movie was okay. So, and Jed Smith is another really good book, Trailblazers of the West. Now, this one is actually from Christian Liberty Press, another homeschool curriculum. They have several readers. This is a true story about a frontiersman who is a Christian and who has a testimony, and he actually makes some maps for some areas that were still in white. So, and that was his desire. He felt like the Lord led him to do that, and it's really, really good story. Another book we found when the boys were quite young, this was one of them that we listened to when we first started getting audios from the library. Like I said, I did read a lot of books before I discovered, hey, they have these on audio, was The Door in the Wall. And this is a really good character building book. We've enjoyed listening to several times. And actually, later I found out it's part of the curriculum that we found years later, which is Heart of Dakota. And that is what my fourth grader is usually using this year, and it's in there. He'll listen to it probably in a few weeks or a month or so. It'll be on his list of books to read. So I'm excited about that. Another book that I'm mentioning is from a company who sells children's books, teen books, adult books, and they also have audio. But it's Lamplighter. This is actually new to our collection. It's The White Knights. I actually got this at a homeschool convention a couple years ago. I was trying to find something more for my younger son, his age, and we read it the next year, which he would have been in third grade, and it was really, really good. It's more about some boys who want to do service and sort of give themselves a chivalry name, and their pastor helps them and see the need of others. So it's really, really good. They have audios. Their books are more written, I think, late 1800s, early 1900s. I could be wrong on that, but and if you look at I know their catalog, I would assume their website is the same way, but it's age. Like, it will show you this is for elementary, or this is for even preschool type age. They have younger books that are more like picture books of the same stories, but just shorter versions. So that's really nice. And one of the CDs that we love to listen to, which is, they actually have the book too. You can order one or the other, which was Teddy's Button. And if you want to start out with one of theirs, that's a really good one to start out when they're quite young. Okay, I do want to mention these two sets just because I want to say that I only read one or two as a read aloud, and then my son finished the series, because it is a series, and I actually don't even have the very first one, but Ivan the Informer, and then they have several stories about this young boy Ivan in Russia, and I want to say he's about 12 and has a younger sister, and I think they're fine. I read it to him when he was in third grade, and then I think he read a couple of them. So, and then another series is the Viking Quest. And this was actually, I first read this when we did Heart of Dakota years ago, when my oldest was in 6th and my second one was in 4th. And this was one of the books in that year. And then I think they have another book in one of the other years, but there's a whole series. There's like 5 books. So we had to get them all. And a couple of my boys, well, I know one of them has read the whole series. So, This is a book just for fun, The Toothpaste Millionaire, and it just teaches more about business and that type of thing. So this is a good read aloud. Now, a couple other books. I'm down to the last few, just to give you some hopes there. But The Bronze Bow. Now, this is definitely for older elementary, maybe even into middle school. If you have not read this book, I definitely would start with an older child. And like I said, it's fine for the younger ones to listen in. But you can get this at the library, and we can get this on audio at the library also. Another book I have mentioned, and probably in some of my other videos, that my youngest is very interested in World War II, and he has studied a lot about the Pacific Ocean and the wars and the battles and the ships and the planes. But I wanted to encourage him to go over to Europe a little bit and about the Holocaust. And so last year I looked for a book that maybe I could read at his level and older brother could listen to, which was in 8th grade. And I found this book, and I wish I could remember where. It might have just been searching on Amazon. I really don't remember, but it is really, really good. The Boy in the Nazi Death Camps, Surviving Hitler. And I felt like it was absolutely fine. It's based on a true story. I'm sure we stopped and talked about some things and discussed things. But if you're looking for a book to introduce your children to the Holocaust, it's really, really good. And this is something we read last year too, which was Lincoln's photography. And it's about his life from childhood to his death, and it's really, really good. And there's a lot of pictures. They enjoyed this one, but those were just some of the books. And I want you to please remember, these were not all read in one year. These were over several years that we have read these books and found these books. And there were periods of time where we listened to a lot of audiobooks. For some reason, a lot of it was in the car, and I think it was between just having some children. And my boys were with me at all times. My husband was in school and worked a full-time job. So, and I have no family where I live, so it was like appointments, they were with me, shopping, they were with me. But I have sweet memories of all of that. And I know that's what the Lord had for my life at that time. So, but audiobooks were a blessing. They gave us joy. And I really encourage, if that's what you need right now, that you can still do read alouds. It's just, you're doing it in that form. I hope this video gives you some ideas of where to start. And if you like this type of content, I really would appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe. That would encourage me so much. And I hope to do some videos, maybe on some audios, because the ones we listen to are not all actual books. Give you some ideas there. So let me know if you're interested. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching.